Ours was physical. We had the comic shop that we worked at. And it was after hours.
It was a 4-story building.
Oh, it was 2 stories.
Oh no, I thought it was 3.
No,
I think that if there was one more floor, it was closed.
Yeah, there was a 3rd floor, but
we still used it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we started, everybody, we had as many people as we could. I think the most we had was like 20. It was crazy, 16 or 20.
Yeah,
everybody would get a piece of paper, and 1 or 2 of them would have a cross on it. So everybody sat down, drew a piece of paper. If you had a cross on your sheet of paper, you were a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't, you were human.
Right.
And what we would do, you couldn't tell anybody what you were. We sat there in the office, and we could hear everything, but we'd be like, okay, first person, you go out. And we'd give them like 15 or 20 seconds. Next person, you go out. Next person, you go out. The point of the vampire is to grab somebody or tag them.
Tag them, yeah.
And they were a vampire. And if the human, when you went out, we had popsicle sticks that were taped together like a cross. Basically, if you were human, you could touch them. If you were a vampire, you couldn't.
Right.
So
if you had them laying around,
if you went out, vampires couldn't pick up the cross, but anybody else could. To kill a vampire, you either had to tag him in the chest, or you could hold the popsicle stick and say, touch it.
Right.
And if they couldn't, you knew they were a vampire and you had to tag him in the chest. So the point was to see if the vampires outnumbered the humans at the end of the game, could kill all the humans, or if the humans could kill the vampires before they multiplied.
Right.
And it was really fun because...
You're getting some kind of big fat bird dancing?
It's a goose doing a booty dance.
Oh.
One of my favorite memories from that game was when we were doing that one night, right? And I was like in the middle of the group, the middle one going out. We had these crosses laying around, and I come running out, and I look down, and there's a cross laying there, and I'm like, oh shit.
If you became a vampire, you had to drop the cross.
Well, not only that, but if it wasn't picked up yet, you knew the vampire was out.
Yeah.
Right? Or somebody screwed up, So it was like, oh god, it was so dramatic. It was crazy.
What made it really fun is when you're sending people out and you're like one of the last ones, and you just hear people, get him, oh my god,
Jesus,
look out! And you're like,
and then it would get dead quiet.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, you go out. I don't want to. And then later on, we decided to add a werewolf into the mix.
Yes.
The werewolf,
interesting.
If he touched you, you died. And you had to lay down on the ground where you were. You could talk, but you couldn't move. You just had to lay there. And there was a Nerf gun, a single-shot Nerf gun. If you shot the werewolf, it killed the werewolf. It would kill a werewolf. But this Nerf gun was so bad. I'd be from me to Rob, which, 6 feet?
Right.
Boink, you go that way, and you're like, ah! But that made it really interesting because then when you came out, you'd see people laying on the ground like, hey, how's it going? I'm dead. And you're like, oh my God, there's like 3 people laying here.
The vampires started figuring out
but they couldn't
just laid down on the ground.
Yeah, they couldn't tell you who the werewolf was.
Right.
And yeah, I remember coming out and they're like, oh my God, are you dead? And I'm dead. Yeah, I'm dead. And then they grab my ankle. You're a vampire.
Now, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
You weren't lying.
Oh man, it was so much fun.
We tried to play a similar version of that for Nerf Night, our volunteer Nerf Night at the library. Trying to get 50 kids to even
contemplate,
yeah. In the rules. They just went around
and simplify it as much as no.
Are you a human? Yes. Pow! You're not now. You're ended up being a free-for-all, but you're like, well, whatever. You missed the point, but at least you had fun.
Mid-school murder hobos.